Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to today's session of Easy Dharma for the New Normal. My name is Pastor Niral and I'll be leading today's session. If this is the first time joining us, these are evening sessions done by myself on a Tuesday and Pastor David on a Wednesday. So throughout these sessions, we share a little bit of Dharma with you in each session. So hopefully you guys can learn a bit more and able to practice the Dharma in your daily life. So today is actually my last session on the six perfections. And if you know anything about the six perfections, then you know that within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and even just generally Mahayana Buddhism, that there is a lot of emphasis put on the practice of the six perfections. So let me just see who is online. We have Pastor David is online. Sukfan is also online. Keng Hoi is here. Parth is also online. Who else is also online? Oh, Iman is here as well. And Yamping and Jericho as well. So very nice to see all of you here this evening. Thank you for joining today's session. So before we get into today's session proper, I want to give a quick recap over what the six perfections are. So the six perfections, the first one is generosity. The second one is morality or discipline. And the third one, dana, sila, kshanti. The third one is patience. And the fourth is joyous effort. The fifth is meditative concentration, which I talked about last week. And the sixth perfection, which I'll be talking about today, is the perfection of wisdom. Now, when we've been talking about the six perfections, they're actually things that we're supposed to practice in our daily lives. So it is not something that you just learn about or that you just listen to a teaching about or you read a book about it, but it's actually something that we're supposed to put into practice every single day as we're practicing Buddhism. And this is actually the main practice of Buddhism, is actually to put everything that we know and embody that within our daily lives. Now, the six perfections can usually be categorized in a way that splits them into two groups. The first group of the six perfections is made up of the first four of the perfections. So that's generosity, morality, patience, and joyous effort. Now, these four things you're supposed to do throughout your daily life, every single minute of, well, if you can, of or any of your interaction with anybody in the world, whether it's your family, your friends, your colleagues at work, even when you're listening to this live stream and you're interacting with other people in the comment section, you should also be practicing these four perfections. Now, the second grouping, so that's more considered kind of the practical application side of it. Okay, the second grouping is made up of the last two, and these two are where the formal practice of meditation actually comes into play. So the first one I talked about, which is meditative concentration, is the key basically to all other forms of meditation that you have, whether it is meditation on wisdom, also known as insight meditation or vipassana meditation, which I'll touch a little bit on just very slightly. But it also applies to things like when you're doing your daily sadhana, when you're reciting your mantras. Are you focusing on the mantra? Are you focusing on the visualizations? And this is where single-pointed concentration comes into play. And it also helps with other aspects, which is the main aspect, is actually for you to be able to see how your mind actually works, to be able to actually take a step back from your thought processes and actually understand how fast your thoughts actually are and how thought processes actually work. Now, this comes about when you have a grounded and routine practice of single-pointed concentration. And as I said last week, this is actually what is the key to meditation on wisdom. Okay, so I've seen some more people come online, which is Mr. Lam is also online. Yep. Yan Fang is also online. Good evening. Pastor Antoinette is here. Kwan Ming is also online, and Irene is also online. Thank you very much for joining. Now, when we talk about this, the last of the 6 perfections, which is known as wisdom, everybody is going to have one word going through their mind, and that word is emptiness. Okay, now emptiness is the highest form, it's the highest realization of wisdom within Buddhism. So within Buddhism, we say that you need 2 things to get to enlightenment. They're called the 2 wings to enlightenment. One is compassion and one is wisdom. So compassion is actually basically application of the Dharma in daily life through things like the 6 perfections. And then on the other hand, you have wisdom. Now this wisdom is more, usually when we say wisdom, we usually think of books. We usually think of concepts or ideas that are written down in books. And when we know that idea or that concept, we think we have wisdom. When we're approaching it from the Buddhist perspective, that is not wisdom. Wisdom is actually a realization of this of knowledge. And what does it mean by realization? It means that from the very core of your being, you have now understood things better, and you're from the very core of your being, you act and you interact with the world in a completely different way. Okay, so if you can think of it such as 2 different mindsets. You've got mindset A, which is that that's our mindsets at the moment, and you've got mindset B, which is the mindset of wisdom. So the point of realization comes when you can switch your mindset from mindset A to mindset B. Now, this is a very simple analogy, and you're all going to be asking, yeah, but I can change my mindset all the time. There's different ways that you can go about doing it. But even if you're able to switch your mindset to a different way of thinking, it somehow will always come back to that original mindset. However, when you reach the realization of wisdom, your entire mind changes completely. Okay? Now, I am not going to go into emptiness, okay, because this is a topic that is far outside of my knowledge range at the moment to be able to share with all of you. But what I will be going into is talking about the beginning stages, how you can prepare yourself so that you can understand emptiness. Now, there's a difference. The difference comes in that you can read the Lamrim, or you can read books on emptiness or wisdom, and you can understand it from an intellectual perspective. Even then, it is quite difficult for most of us to understand it from an intellectual perspective. Okay? I am not going to be focusing on the intellectual perspective. I'm not going to go into the theories and all of that behind it. What I want to focus on is I want to talk about the practical aspects of it. When we come to the perfection of wisdom, we need to have prepared ourselves well in order to be able to enact that change or have the necessary grounding for that realization to occur within your mind. Okay? Now, one of those groundings is, yes, intellectual knowledge, but that is not what I'm going to dwell on, because that's kind of a given. If you want to do something, you need to know about it. You need to know how to do it, okay? But what I'm going to go into the practical aspects. Now, according to the Lamrim, there are certain fundamentals that you have got to have in place before you can achieve any realization of wisdom. Okay, the first one is you need to be you need to have taken refuge. Okay, and if you remember the session on refuge that I gave, it is not just about taking refuge with a guru physically. It's also about taking refuge from your heart, from actually having that faith and conviction with it in the three jewels. The second thing that you need is you need to have purified a lot of your negative karma. And there's a reason for this. When we have a lot of negative karma, it is kind of a force of its own, and it leads us to do more negative things. When we do more negative things, we can't build up the second aspect of this point, which is the generation of merit. Now, you need to have a large store of merit in order to be able to one, understand emptiness or wisdom intellectually, and secondly, also to use that to enact that change through meditation, which I will talk about a little later, so you can actually have that realization of wisdom. So how do you go about doing these two things, this purification of negative karma and this generation of merit? It is very simple. We've been talking about it, and me and Pastor David have been covering it in all of our sessions. We change the way that we think, we change the way that we act, and we engage in practices that do these two things. So obviously a simple example that everyone would know who is watching this would be to engage in a daily sadhana practice, which has the two fundamental key aspects: generation of merit, purification of negative karma. However, it's more than just that. We also need to imbue all the things that me and Pastor David have been talking about over all these sessions in our daily lives. We have to put into practice things like generosity, things like discipline, things like patience and joyous effort into our daily lives. And when we do that, we increase our purification of negative karma and generation of merit. Okay. Also today, if you have any questions, please do ask, especially if it's in relation to the six perfections or the practice of the six perfections. Please do ask on the comments. I've seen a couple more people that have come online. Jacinta Go is online. Good evening to you. Pastor Hani, Caroline is here. Kalista Xing is also here. Kin Ho, nice to see you here again. Ramesh is also online. Good evening. And Sharon Ong is also online. Thank you for joining this evening. So what I've been talking about so far, what I've just is a quick overview of the six perfections, and then I was talking about the prerequisites that are needed to achieve wisdom. So I've talked about two of these prerequisites. One is you having your refuge, and the second one, which is again split into two parts: purification of negative karma and generation of merit. One of the third thing that you need, a prerequisite, is you actually have to have guru devotion. Now, guru devotion is a topic that I will be covering. I think from next week, what I'll be doing is be going over guru devotion in using the 50 verses of guru devotion. So that is something that we'll be getting onto next. But guru devotion is something that you need. It's a prerequisite for achieving the realization of wisdom. And the fourth prerequisite is that you're actually practicing all the stages of the path set out in things like the Lamrim, okay? Things that are Dharma that is placed sequentially for you to understand and affect a change within your daily life first, improving your quality of life, improving your relationships with people, in how you see things and how you perceive things. And this word perception is important, because I'll it is part of the explanation of wisdom, which is the part that I'll be explaining today. And once you do those things, once you have these prerequisites, when you get to the perfection of wisdom, when you study intellectually, and then apply meditation to it, then you are going to have the realization of wisdom. Okay. Okay, Iman has a question. In a blog article on Dorje Shugden's 2020 Losar advice, it says we have to accomplish two types of merits: merit, and wisdom merit. Only then can we achieve Buddhahood. Since you are talking about wisdom, can you please explain what is wisdom merit? Okay. The two types of merit. Oh, I need to confer with the pastor. Pastor David. Wisdom merit is normal merit. Wisdom merit is the merit to understand wisdom, correct? To realize wisdom. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, okay, just conferred with Pastor David, who is behind the camera. There's two types of merit, okay? The first merit is the merit that we all know and think about. You know, when we go about doing our daily sadhana, it is we've generated, you know, merit. Merit is how we usually think of merit, okay? Which is what is needed for us to achieve enlightenment. Wisdom merit is the specific merit that is specifically needed for you to achieve the realization of wisdom. Hence, it is known as wisdom merit, okay? So it's still merit, but it's merit specifically for you to achieve wisdom, okay? Now, why this is important, okay? The real enlightenment, okay, comes about when you have this this realization. Remember earlier I was saying that you switch from mindset A to mindset B. Enlightenment is the point where you switch to mindset B and you're never going to come back to mindset A. Okay? So in order to achieve that, you need to, which is wisdom, you need the special sort of merit, which is known as wisdom merit. Okay? Now, you're probably going to ask, how do I go about generating wisdom merit? Okay? Wisdom merit is merit that you can, I mean, when you do something like Manjushri's practice, specifically aimed at, we say that it's aimed, he's the Buddha of wisdom, right? So we say that his practice is specifically aimed at generating wisdom. Now, when you engage in his practice, for example, you generate merit, which is the normal merit that we think of because he is a Buddha. But at the same time, you also generate wisdom merit because he is the embodiment of the wisdom of all the Buddhas. Okay, so that is one way in which you can accumulate wisdom merit. Another way that you can do it more on a day-to-day basis is basically whatever you know about Buddhist practice right now, you put into practice in your daily life. Okay? So you know things like compassion are good. You know things like having patience is good and all of these things. And you put them into practice in your daily life. This actually also increases both types of merits. The other way to do it is actually to read, to study, to understand, and contemplate on the teachings. Okay? I hope that answers your question. If anything isn't clear, please do ask, okay? Wei Ting is also online. Martin is here. Jia Seng is also online. Good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining. So, now I'm going to get on to more of the explanation on wisdom a little bit, okay? Now, wisdom is achieved through meditation. And it is, that type of meditation is known as vipassana meditation. And what vipassana meditation is, you basically take a topic or a concept or a perception, and in meditation, you analyze that from multiple angles. Okay? You analyze that concept or that idea, that perception from multiple angles. And when you analyze it from many different angles, you come to a realization that it is, that concept or that idea is not how you actually thought it was. Okay? My explanations are going to get slightly vague when I'm talking about this. Okay? There are actually multiple forms of vipassana meditation, and there's different ways that you can come at wisdom using vipassana, which is over and outside of the scope of this live stream. So I'm not going to get into it in too much detail. Okay, but in order to be able to analyze a concept, analyze a perception, and come at it from many different angles, the key here is that you need to have the concentration to be able to do that without any other thoughts, any other ideas, or any other perceptions coming into your head. Which is why training in what we talked about last week, which was dhyana, which is single-pointed, which is meditative concentration, is important. Here is where we see why the two forms of meditation, single-pointed concentration and vipassana, otherwise known as insight meditation, you need them together. Okay? Because when you do vipassana meditation, you can do it, but if you don't have concentration on what you're doing, other thoughts will come into your head and you'll end up getting confused and your vipassana meditation won't actually work. Okay? So that is the reason why you need both of these types of meditation used together in tandem to achieve wisdom. Okay? And I've just seen that Montaigne is also online, and Sheen has asked a question. Okay. Can we chant the following mantras to enhance or open up our wisdom mind? Om Arabadza Nadi and Om Benza Sato Hung. Okay. Om Arabadza Nadi is very good to open up wisdom within your mind, because it is the mantra of Manjushri, and he is obviously the embodiment of the wisdom of all the Buddhas. So it is super fantastic, okay, to recite Manjushri's mantra. In fact, if you're doing the Diamond Path daily sadhana, Manjushri's mantra is actually, Om Arabadza Nadi, is actually included during the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. And Om Benza Sato Hung is actually the short mantra of Vajrasattva. That is more for the purification of negative karma, or stopping that negative karma from multiplying. But at the same time is also for the generation of merit. So it's a secondary benefit. Okay. So let me explain mantras a little bit. Manjushri's mantra is the mantra of wisdom. We say Om Arabadza Nadi, you recite it, you will gain wisdom. But Manjushri is a Buddha, and all the Buddhas can lead you to enlightenment following all of the practices. And by that I mean, some people ask, if I recite Manjushri and that develops wisdom, do I have to also recite Chenrezig because I also want compassion? Okay? Both mantras will help you gain wisdom. At the same time, both mantras will help you gain compassion. It is that Manjushri's mantra will enact wisdom within your mind first. Its primary benefit is wisdom, but along with wisdom comes compassion anyway. Okay? Because they're two sides of the same coin. Similarly with Chenrezig, when you recite Chenrezig's mantra, you generate compassion first, because it is the specific benefit of Chenrezig's mantra. But along with compassion also comes wisdom. Okay? In regards to Vajrasattva's mantra, it will help you to purify your negative karma first, but it can also help you to lead as a secondary benefit onto things like wisdom and onto things like compassion. Okay? That's why we always say that the mantras are so powerful, because they can actually help you in multiple ways. It is just that the way that the Buddhas have manifested their mantras, they usually have a specific benefit to help you with first on your Dharma path. But then as you keep going through the practice, you will see the other qualities that you need to achieve enlightenment can also be developed as well. Okay? Om Bedza Sato Hong is perfect and is a very good mantra to recite, but I do suggest that you recite 21 of the long Vajrasattva mantra at the end of the day. And the reason is because the specific energy created by reciting the long Vajrasattva mantra 21 times at the end of the day will actually stop any negative karma that you have committed throughout that day from being multiplied. Reciting 21 times every day doesn't mean you're purifying the karma for that day. It only means that you are stopping the negative karma from multiplying. Okay, this is a very important thing to note, especially amongst some of the people that come to Kechara. They think that reciting 21 times a day purifies the negative karma for that day. It doesn't. It only stops the karma from multiplying for that day. Okay, if you know that you have done negative karma within that day and you do want to purify it, and you're relying on Vajrasattva, you will have to recite more of his mantra. Okay, but both of these things, the stopping the karma from multiplying and also the purifying of the negative karma through the recitation of Vajrasattva, will need you to use the 4 opponent powers in tandem with the Vajrasattva mantra and practice to both purify and to stop negative karma from multiplying. So I just wanted to make that little point clear, because a lot of people think that just by reciting 21 Vajrasattva mantras a day, you've purified your negative karma for that day. It is not. It is you stop it from multiplying. Okay, but also you need to use the 4 opponent powers in order to do that. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. There's a comment by Chung. The 2 types of merit is a common way of describing our evolving Buddha nature factors, the 2 networks or 2 accumulations. The network of positive force, collection of merit, and the network of deep awareness, collection of wisdom. That's one. That is one way of putting it. The difference between the 2. Okay. Tata Ong is also online. Mr. Lam, okay. Does the reduction of our non-virtuous action and thoughts generate merit as opposed to having virtuous actions and thought? The basis of my question is we are on the path of cutting down on non-virtuous actions to realize the 6 perfections. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Lam, you've asked a very good question. But I would say in this case, you are thinking about it a bit one-sided. Okay? And I will explain what I mean. When you practice things like the 6 perfections, you automatically reduce the negative actions that you are doing in daily life. But at the same time, you automatically increase the virtuous actions that you're doing. So it's not that you're focusing on reducing one and boosting the other, is that they happen together. So your virtuous actions increase and your negative actions decrease as you practice the 6 perfections. Okay? So how does that generate merit? Okay? Normally, this would actually only generate positive karma. And as we all know, the more positive karma you have, it will lead you to the higher realms of the higher realms. So the God realm, the demigod realm, and the human realm. Here, what we're actually doing and what we're actually talking about is generating merit. So even though we have been discussing about it using using terms and ideas like reducing your negative actions and increasing your positive actions. If you practice something like generosity, for example, okay, these two things happen automatically. But the thing is that because these sessions are quite short, you have to remember something. When, say, for example, I'm talking about things like generosity or discipline, and Pastor Dave is talking about the wheel of sharp weapons or things like that, it is automatically, you have to automatically assume that this is based on one very important thing, and that is refuge and the idea and the concept of generating merit. Now, when you remember when I was talking about generating merit, you always start it off by setting your motivation and taking refuge, and you always end it by doing a dedication. Okay, so any actions in the middle turn into merit. They become merit making activities. Okay, so when I've been explaining things, or Pastor David had been explaining things in these live streamings, you have to kind of take it as granted that it presupposes that you have refuge, and that you are actively taking refuge, and also that you are doing your dedications. Then when you actually put it into daily life, the things that we've been talking about, like the 6 perfections, then that generates merit. Okay? I don't know if that actually answered your question, because I took it a little bit further. If it didn't, please let me know. Tata says, hello, Pastor Noor and everyone. Phoebe Young is also online. And Sheen said, okay, cool. Okay, he understood my explanation of mantras. Okay. And if you don't understand anything, if you need me to repeat anything, please do ask, because it's the perfect time, these live streamings, to learn more. Okay. Chung replied to Mr. Lam, in my opinion, it doesn't, because it does not create any causes for you to further your Dharma practice. Chung, I think the way that Mr. Lam asked the question was, he asked it in a way that he probably was thinking about it and was trying to express it in his words. I think my answer might have elaborated a little things a little better, I hope. Okay? Okay, so wisdom. Okay? One of the things that we need to start off with before we can actually understand emptiness is something called perception. Okay? Now, emptiness, the teachings on emptiness and the teachings on wisdom talk a lot about perception. But I wanted to put that into, explain that a little bit more and help everyone out there, everyone who's watching, to put the idea or the Dharma practice of understanding perception into practice. Okay, so perception basically means that, and kind of the gist of the teachings on emptiness, without going into too much detail, is basically that the way that we see the world, the way that we hear the world, the way that we interact with the world, is not the way the world really is. And that is due to a thing called perception and concepts. Okay? Now, what does this mean? Okay, I know that some of you are parents. Okay? And obviously we're all children of parents. We have a particular, due to our life experiences and our imprints from previous lifetimes, we have a particular perception of what our parents should be like. So we automatically assume, or we want our parents to be kind to us all the time, to provide for us, whether it is materially or it is physically. And this perception comes about from a couple of different things. This perception comes about from our own need or want or desire to be one taken care of. Secondly, it also comes from experience. Now, these experiences, again, can be maybe when you were younger, you saw a parents with their children, and you saw how happy they were, and you kind of thought to yourself, why don't I have that sort of relationship with my parents? Why don't my parents give me, I don't know, a new teddy bear or a new computer or a new phone these days? But my friend, his parents, look at his parents. They're so nice. They actually got him a new mobile phone. They're saving up so he can buy a car when he's old enough. And that basically clouds reality for us, because now we have an expectation or a perception of how our parents should be, what they should be like. And what happens is this perception, by the way, is not static. It is always changing. Our perceptions of things always change. So maybe when you were younger, you had a perception that your parents didn't give you as much as, other people got, and they weren't good parents. But as you got older, as you went out into the world and you worked and you had to earn your own living, and then you may have come to the realization that your parents actually did work quite hard to actually give you what they could, given their circumstances. And then your perception of your parents will change. Now your perception of your parents is not that they weren't kind. Now you think about them as being hardworking people who did the best they could and provided for you as a child the best they could. Okay? Now, in both of these circumstances, what you have is a perception. Now, in reality, this perception of your parents not caring for you enough, or even the perception of your parents working extremely hard for you, both of these perceptions of your parents is not actually how or what your parents are actually like. Okay? When we have perceptions, which we all do, we act due to these perceptions. For example, that child, when he or she was younger and thought that the parents didn't care for him enough because they didn't give him the new mobile phone, or they didn't buy him a car when he was old enough to have a car, that child will usually react in negative ways. That child would probably get angry at the parents. If the parents didn't give the child what the child wanted, the child would get angry and throw a tantrum. We all see this. We've probably all experienced this in our lives. We probably see it around us all the time. Now that child has let that perception judge the way in which, in how to react towards the parents. Okay? So in the case of the child, it's in a negative way because the child wants something but doesn't get it, gets angry at the parents. And this obviously, as we have known and as we've talked about the generation of karma, this would lead to negative karma because it is a negative situation which probably will get the parents a bit angry. Why is my child acting in this way? Why can't he just be happy with what he's got? What is going on? So the parent has a perception of the child now. The child is not acting in the way that the parent perceives the child to be, because the parent perceives the child to be nice, to be calm, to be respectful. And when the child doesn't act in this manner, because it goes against the parents' perceptions of what the child should be like, they also act out in a negative manner by shouting back at the child. In some cases, they might even hit the child or smack the child, try to punish the child for acting out and being disobedient. So in this situation, we see that due to the perception of both the child and the parent not being correct or how things actually are, it will lead to actions that will lead to negative karma. Okay? Now, I'm also going to talk about the perception of the adult now. The adult that kind of realizes that the parents actually worked very hard and gave the child, who is now an adult, the best upbringing that they could. So now the child has a different perception of the parents. Now the child thinks that the parents did very well in raising him or her. He has a perception that the parents were extremely hardworking. He had the perception that the parents loved the child a lot. Okay? So now when he interacts with his parents, he is going to be interacting in a way that is more loving, that is more kind. Maybe he saves up to pay off the parents' mortgage if they had a mortgage. If the parents are going through financial difficulties, he helps them through it. If they need to go to the doctor for medical reasons, he makes sure he's there because he has that perception that his parents were so hardworking, so diligent in raising him. Now, from the other side of it, the parents are now have due to the now that the child is acting in a positive way towards the parents are extremely proud of their child. Now they develop a perception of the child being very disciplined, very respectful, very loving, and very kind. So now the interactions between the parents and the child changes. Now we see it becoming a more positive. Okay? So now, due to these perceptions that you have, now what happens is that the actions between the parents and the child actually become positive actions, and they actually lead to positive karma. Okay? And we usually, from a secular perspective, we would applaud the child and the parent for having such a good relationship with each other, for having such a loving relationship with each other. Now, here is where wisdom comes in. Okay? This is where wisdom comes in. From an ultimate Buddhist perspective, as far as I can share with you that I know, which is very limited, both examples are not the way the world it is not the right, how to explain it? It's very difficult. See? Both perceptions are not correct. Both perceptions are not correct because the actions come from the actual perception itself. Okay? So, I'm going to give you an example. Perception is like a filter. It's like wearing glasses. Okay? Now, this is the way the world really is. This is the way my parent really is. Okay? But I have a perception filter. Okay? I have a perception of what my parent should be like. And because I have this perception, any action that I take is due to this perception. Okay? So I'm not acting towards my parents and reacting to them for who they are. I'm reacting to them through my perception, okay, of what my parents are. So what wisdom teaches is that this perception, okay, is not correct. And that's as far as my limited knowledge of wisdom will allow me to share with all of you tonight, okay? there are actually very, very deep levels of wisdom, but what I've shared with you is a very gross form. It's a very rough form of what emptiness is. And how is that actually useful in our day-to-day life? Okay? How is that understanding that you have a perception of the way people, of the way things are, of the way people are, of the way things should be? Why is that important? It is important because when you remember and you realize that the way that you interact with the world, the way that you interact with your family, your friends, your colleagues, anybody or anything, it is because you usually act because you have a perception about that person. My mother is very caring, so I'm going to buy her flowers. My father is not a nice person, so I'm not going to buy him flowers. You know, you're in a group of friends and your friend talks, the tone of your friend's voice is a little bit off. You automatically have a perception that your friend doesn't like you, so now you stop being friends with them. Okay? Oh, okay, I have a bunch of questions. Okay, so in essence, that is wisdom, okay, as far as I can explain at the moment. If you understood about what I'm trying to tell you about perception and what I call perception filters, let me know. And if you didn't, I will try to clarify a bit more. Okay, where we go. Okay, I've seen some more people online. Yo Meow Key is also good online. Good evening. Lillian is also online. Eduardo is also online. Thank you for joining. Just to make sure, there's one from Iman and one from Sharon, right? Yeah. Okay. So Iman asks, thanks Pastor Niral for your explanation on wisdom merit and how to generate such merit. Another question, can one lose the wisdom gained? Thanks. Okay. When we're practicing Buddhism, if you do not reach a certain level in your practice can go backwards. By going backwards, I mean that you can basically, due to life and due to samsara, cyclic existence, you will lose your wisdom and in a sense, and you will once again start generating negative karma, and that will lead you back into samsara. Within Buddhism, we all know we'll have a concept or an idea of what a bodhisattva is. Okay, a bodhisattva is somebody who's practicing the bodhisattva path, who's practicing things like the 6 perfections, who's practicing things like meditation and learning, and on the way to becoming a Buddha. Okay, to becoming enlightened. Now, within the term bodhisattva, there are 10 levels known as 10 grounds. Okay, 10 levels in which you can be termed as a bodhisattva. Within those 10 levels, if you haven't reached the 3rd level of being a bodhisattva, okay, when you take rebirth again and again within cyclic existence, your practice and your understanding and your spiritual progress towards enlightenment can go backwards. So in essence, you can lose your wisdom in a sense. Okay, but if you've reached the 3rd level of being a bodhisattva all the way to level 10, there is no way that you lose your wisdom, and there is no way that you lose your merit. You can only go forward. Okay? So, in that sense, I hope that kind of answers your question. Yeah? Okay, let me know. Sharon Ong says, what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Okay, this is a very good question. I asked Sam Rinpoche this a couple of times actually, and Rinpoche's answer was always the same. Knowledge is basically an understanding of something. Okay, so I can have knowledge of the Lamrim because I've read the Lamrim, I've studied it, maybe I've memorized a little bit of it. So I have knowledge of the Lamrim, but do I have the wisdom of the Lamrim? Okay, and the answer in this case would be not really. Wisdom is different because the way that Rinpoche explained it is wisdom is the actualization of knowledge. Okay, this is how Rinpoche explained it to me. Okay, so knowledge is the understanding of something, and wisdom is the actualization of that understanding. Okay, so let us take a very simple example. The first of the 6 perfections, generosity. Now, I've been talking about generosity, blah, 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 blah. You've been listening to generosity for, I did a session on it. I've repeated the word generosity every single session since that one. All Buddhists talk about being a generous person, blah, 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 blah. You can tell me the categories of generosity and the ways to do it. That's knowledge. But have you actualized it yet? Are you living through generosity? Which is different. When you actualize generosity, when you gain the wisdom of generosity, okay, it's kind of like how it's termed. It means that you have actualized it in your life. That is the difference between the two. That's how Rinpoche explained it. Okay, hope that makes sense. Okay. Someone called May1 Rachel asks how to change the perception then. Okay, the changing of the perception comes about in multiple ways. Okay, there's multiple ways of doing it. One of the ways is actually to put into practice the 6 perfections. Okay? Because once you put into practice the 6 perfections, it will be easier for you to actually change your perception. Okay? And the reason why it becomes easier is because you actually generate the merit needed for that switch to occur. It is also that you purify your negative karma for that switch to occur. Now, earlier on, what I was talking about, that I mentioned towards the beginning of the live stream, is that you need certain prerequisites in order for you to be able to change that perception in a lasting manner. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about the wisdom of emptiness, which is the highest wisdom, just on the level of perception. 1, you need to study and understand how the mind, the Buddha's teachings on the mind. And 2, you actually need to put into practice things like single-pointed concentration meditation or breathing meditation. Okay? And you also need to put into practice contemplation meditation in preparation for your ultimate meditation on wisdom. Okay? When you put these things into practice, you're actually able to change these perceptions. On our level, you can change a negative perception to a positive perception quite easily. And that is working your way on towards, emptiness. But when you get to emptiness itself, you actually cut away all perceptions completely. But on our level, the first thing that we need to do is we need to change our perceptions in a way that makes it more realistic. Okay? Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it. Okay? For example, you have a friend, and your friend is the best friend in the world. Your best friend always gives you gifts on your birthdays, at Christmas, at, Diwali, whatever celebration you're celebrating. Your friend is, always there for you. Your friend always has time for you. Your friend, is the best friend in the world. So your perception of that particular friend, everything is good about them. But that doesn't actually take into account other aspects of that person's personality. Maybe that person may have troubles, family troubles, in with their parents, for example. But because you have a perception of your friend, and your friend is this perfect person, you kind of don't realize that your friend can also get very angry at the parents, maybe has acted out, against the parents. But that doesn't fit into your perception of your friend. But actually, from your friend's point of view, they're both of these things. They are, they are having trouble with their parents. They do get angry. They do act out. But on the opposite hand of it, they do actually care for you a lot as a friend. Okay? But your perception of them is only one-sided. So it is true things like contemplation and meditation that we are able to let go of how... See, the first step is not actually to changing your perception. The first step is actually the realization that you have perceptions. You have these perception filters. When you realize that you have these perception filters, you no longer give them the power to that they have over you in how you react to something or how you act towards somebody. Okay? I hope that answers your question. Mr. Lam, Pastor, is this logical? Because we are usually clouded by our own perception, therefore it would be logical to deduce that our expectations are actually formed by our perception. And so, as long as we are caught up in this cycle, we need to build up wisdom to break this cycle. Okay. Yeah, you have... you've got the general idea and the gist of it, and you've tried to explain it in a way that makes sense to you, which from your explanation I can see that it is starting to make sense. Now, we have expectations of things, of how things should be, and these are based on our perceptions of them. Okay? So we acted out of our expectations and our perceptions at the same time. Okay? So as long as we are doing that, we will be stuck within samsara, within cyclic existence. So the point here is to get yourself out of cyclic existence completely. And the only way to do that is to have that realization of emptiness. Okay? But in order to get there, you need to build up that groundwork to be able to get there. And that is what Dharma practice is literally all about. It's having that foundation to be able to give you that springboard to have that actualization of emptiness. So when you do that, you're outside of the cycle completely. Okay, because you've achieved realization, you've achieved enlightenment. Okay. Pastor Tatming is also online. William has just joined. Kian is also online. Christy Flores is also online. Thanks for joining. Chung asked, in Buddhism, wisdom or prajna is a very specific term which is understanding the true nature of phenomena. Knowledge brings you closer and closer to prajna. You've explained it in another way. But remember, Rinpoche explained that knowledge will only get you so far, because if you don't actualize it, if you don't turn it into some form of wisdom, it just remains knowledge. Okay, it just remains. I mean, we will have the term. What's the term? Bookworm. You're a bookworm. I mean, when you're growing up and you're in school and everything, and you have that one or two friends that always do well in school. They're always reading their books and always get 100% in their tests, and can quote you passages from here, quote you passages from there. That is knowledge. Okay, but without them putting that into practice, without them actualizing it, then it won't actually lead you anywhere. So, but this actualization doesn't just happen at the end of the path. This actualization, okay, happens right now. All of you out there who are listening to this live streaming have some form of knowledge about Buddhism, because I can tell by the people who are watching this. You all know you all know intellectually, you have the knowledge to know that maybe you should be doing your sadhana every day. You should be practicing things like the 6 perfections, generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyous effort, meditative concentration, all of these things. But it's knowledge. But to actualize it, to make it into wisdom of these things, you need to put it into practice. Okay? So the actualization of wisdom, of emptiness, of prajna, at the end of your Dharma path is just one in a long series of actualizing the Dharma within daily life. And this is something as Buddhists that we often forget. Buddhism is not a philosophy. Buddhism is not just a philosophy. It is not just text on a page to understand, to memorize, to be able to quote. It is a way of life. It is a way of living, and you need to live it. Otherwise, you're not going to progress anywhere. So that is the main thing that I want to stress from today's live streaming, is that whatever we've been sharing, whatever have, and we've all been sharing it. I've been sharing it, Pastor David been sharing it, Pastor Gina has been talking about it on her Sunday sessions. JP has been doing it with you. He's been doing the meditation, breathing meditation with you. That is all, it all needs to be actualized to make full use of it. Okay? And when you do that, you will literally see your life change for the better. Okay. There's a question from Sharon. Can someone who doesn't have very much Dharma knowledge still have a successful Dharma path? Yes. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if you're talking about yourself or you're talking about somebody else, but if you know a little bit of the Dharma and you don't know much, actually there's not much point in knowing more, in reading more, in studying more, if you can't actually put into practice what you already know. And that in itself is can be life-changing. For example, talking about first of the 6 perfections, generosity. You know you should be a generous person. Okay? Something as simple as that. This person doesn't know about, concentration meditation or wisdom or whatever, but they know that they need to be a generous person. Once you put generosity into practice and make generosity a part of your life, your daily life, you will have 2 things happen again, which is always comes back down to these 2 things: purification of negative karma and generation of merit. When these 2 things happen, automatically it will become easier for them to practice things like morality. For example, if you're a generous person, and if you're practicing generosity, automatically you're going to stop killing. Okay? Because you want to save lives. Okay? Because you're a generous person. Generosity will lead to compassion. So you stop killing. Automatically here you're practicing the 2nd perfection, which is moral discipline. Okay? So even though we talk about them separately, when you actually get into the practice of it and put them into daily life, they become one. Okay? Rachel asks how to be free from craving and grasping to some beautiful thing or person. Okay. One is, talking about this, Pastor David gave a very, very good explanation on attachment. Okay, so if you go to the videos section of this the Kechara Facebook page and scroll down, you will see an excellent teaching that Pastor David gave on attachment. One way, in addition to what Pastor David talked about during that, one way that I'm going to suggest that you do that you can reduce craving to something beautiful or a person is to meditate on impermanence, is to contemplate impermanence. Okay? Now, this is something that you can do on a general level, or you can actually do it on a very specific level. Okay? This will freak people out. The thing I'm going to share with you all. This will freak some of you out, but it is one of the things that Rinpoche has shared with some people previously, and it is attachment to a physical person or physical beauty, somebody else. Okay, so you see somebody, you're around somebody, and you're attracted to them very much because you think they're stunning, they're beautiful. Now, Rinpoche shared a very specific, very specific meditation to deal with this. This will freak you out, and I apologize for this, but one thing that you need to remember, this is all in your head, okay? You basically visualize that person dying. Okay? Now, during the physical death process, that person's body actually starts to rot and decompose. And then you actually visualize the insides of the person, the various organs and the various liquids that are going through their body and things like that. Now, that's kind of the gist of it, very short. Now, this is not you wanting that person to die and rot, okay? This is actually a way for you to help stop yourself from having attachment and craving towards that person. Because when you have attachment towards a beautiful person and a craving to a beautiful person, it is from a physical aspect. So when you contemplate on the physical body of that person deteriorating, rotting away, it lessens your attachment. Okay? It lessens your attachment that comes from seeing a beautiful person or seeing somebody that you're physically attracted to. Okay? I'm not talking about the personality, I'm not talking about who they are, I'm just talking about if you have a physical attraction to somebody, but you want to reduce it. This is one of the methods that Rinpoche has taught before to be able to reduce it. Okay, specifically to some of our pastors in white. Okay, our pastors in white are training to become monks and nuns, and one of the things that we need to, one of the vows that you need to take when you become a monk or a nun is being celibate. Okay, but as with everybody in samsara, we also have, we also attracted to beautiful things and beautiful people. Okay, so this is one of the methods that Rinpoche taught us, a couple of us, many years ago, to be able to help to prepare us to be able to actually hold our vow of celibacy when we eventually take it. Okay. Chung asks, yes, but it will take a very long time. Actually, Chung, if you actualize any part of Dharma practice in daily life, it won't actually take that long. Okay? For example, just take single-pointed concentration meditation, for example. A daily if you just know about doing single-pointed concentration, right? If you do it daily for 6 months, and you do it constantly for 6 months, and you know what you're doing, okay, you can achieve single-pointed concentration within 6 months. Okay? And that's almost guaranteed if you know what you're doing and how to do it. Similarly, if you put into practice things like compassion and put into practice things like moral discipline, that actually speeds up your understanding of your understanding of more Dharma, and B, your practice of more Dharma. Okay? And again, it's going to come back to these two things that everybody hates hearing me say, because you purify your negative karma and you generate merit when you put things into practice. When you do these two things, it speeds up your Dharma practice. It is not that you become stuck and you can't lead on to anything else. Because these two things happen, it actually becomes easier for you to understand, to learn more, and to put into practice more. But the key here is you actually need to start. Because I would say probably about 90% of people say they're practicing Buddhism aren't. It is they know a bit of Buddhism and that they can recite things back to you or talk to you about this topic or that topic, or you can talk about emptiness or anything. But the key, put whatever you know into practice, and that actually speeds up the rest of your Dharma progress, your spiritual transformation. Okay? And Sharon has posted the live stream to the link to, I think, Pastor David's explanation on attachment. So, does anybody have any more questions? Okay. I think if nobody has any more questions, then I will end here. Before we go, I would just like to mention that if you would like to help us, you can sponsor our live streaming sessions. Any of the sessions that we're doing, either myself, Pastor David, Pastor Jinai, Pastor Shin, or JP, any of these sessions can actually be sponsored, and this actually helps us go towards various things of keeping us here, sharing it with all of you. And the link is on the comments that you can go and help to sponsor, help to keep us online, sharing all of this Dharma with you. And one of the things that we are going to be doing is, if you do sponsor a particular session, we're dedicating the merits that are generated from, not only from us sharing it with you, but also the merits that are generated from you learning about the various aspects of the Dharma to our sponsor. So the sponsor of today's live stream is Kong Iman, and there is a very beautiful dedication from Iman. May there be more unceasing true compassion and wisdom amongst all sentient beings. Now this, I think, this dedication actually sums up very well all of the 6 perfections, and also everything that we've been talking about today. So I would like to dedicate the merits generated from this live streaming according to Iman's dedication. We have a couple of comments that I didn't see before, but that have come up. Okay. Okay, Callista says, I have a friend who is very generous, but she just don't like to learn Dharma. Now, okay, remember, when we're talking about these things, we have to presuppose that you have taken refuge and that you're doing your dedications as well. Okay, so when you do that, you generate merit. Now, if your friend is a very generous person, it's fantastic, but how have you been approaching your trying to share Dharma with this particular friend? Okay, sometimes it also depends, because your friend, okay, getting back to my filters, your friend probably has a perception of what Dharma practice is, of what Dharma is like. And for your friend, she doesn't want to learn Dharma because this perception is negative. It's something that she doesn't want to do because she has a perception that she's not going to like it. She or he is not going to like it. Okay? So in this situation, what you can do, and what Rinpoche has also actually suggested to me, because I was in the same situation as you, I also had a friend like that, is to show them a different way of doing Dharma. Now, since your friend is a generous person, maybe you can encourage them to be more generous, or to show them how you practice generosity in Dharma. Okay? Show them how you are a generous person. And when they see that, because it matches their personality already, which is being a generous person, that might lead them to want to know more about the Dharma. And even if they don't, it's perfectly fine because it's their choice. Okay? Sheen asks, meditation will change a person. Okay. Because it changed a carnivore like me to a different person, do attain JP's class. Yeah. Meditation can definitely change a person. Okay. The Buddhist path can definitely change a person. Okay. So yes, I do suggest that you would do attend JP sessions on Saturdays and Sundays now. His breathing meditation. If you have been attending his sessions previously, please do keep a daily practice of it, because it is extremely transformational. Okay. Replying, Pastor Tap Ming replied to Sharon, if you meditate consistently and regularly, wisdom will arise naturally. Having wisdom is much better than having vast knowledge, but not actualizing these knowledges at all. Some Vipassana practitioners don't study the scriptures, but instead focus on the practice of awareness and mindfulness to generate wisdom. Yeah, thank you, Pastor Tap Ming, for that comment. Yeah, okay. Then Chung is talking about chicken rice. Yes, Chung, the Dharma knowledge is it's obviously a thing that we need in our spiritual transformation, but to get someone to want to know more is also a different matter. Okay, so that is more or less what I wanted to cover with all of you. So let's just do a very, very quick recap of what I've been covering over the last couple of sessions, and that is the 6 perfections. Now, again, these 6 perfections are things that everybody who are practicing Tibetan Buddhism probably have heard about or know about. But these 6 things are actually things that need to be put into practice in daily life. So just want to cover what these things are again. Dana, which is generosity. Sila, which is morality or discipline. Dana, Sila, Shanti. Kshanti, which is patience. Then you have virya, which is joyous effort, dhyana, which is single-pointed concentration, and the 6th one is prajna, or wisdom. So these are 6 things that we all need to be actively practicing. If you want to know how to practice in daily life, this is a framework that you can actually use to practice on a day-to-day basis, and that's what they're for. The 6 perfections are there for you to practice every day and in daily life, so that you can achieve transformation according to the Buddhist path. Okay? So thank you very much for joining. Please do join Pastor David's session tomorrow at 9:30 here again on Kechara Facebook page. Before we end, let me just do a quick completion, dedication, and then we can end. Chanju Samjo Rinpoche, Makapanam Geguji, Gyabanya Mame Payang, Gonden Gondo Pawasho, Tony Tongwa Rinpoche, Makapanam Geguji, Gyabanya Mame Gonden Gondo Pawasho, Nasojine Sapa Gyawadi, Tanan Ruangun Langapan, Japajason Los Andrapai, Tampen Purindusa, Shesh, Kiewa Kundina Dalamada, Dramachiki Pala Lochochin, Sadam Yamgi Terazone, Toji Janking Upanutush, Gyawadi Nududa, Lama Samgi Kurine, Wachiki Malupa, Deis Alagopa, Chuki Gapo Sonkapa, Chusonama Pewala, Geke Shamazi Wadan, Tungi Malun Samash, Dada Sande Dusunda, Rewoto Tenatene, Gawa Los Andrapai, Tampari Vaguch, New Modeles and Dele, New Megungan Deleche, Nitentatu Telep, Conjusum Jijinjiro, Conjusum Jingodruso, Condusum di Trashish, Yetson Lama Kutseram Techi, Nam Katrine Joji Japat, Lotantome Mesatsungi, Joe Motatune, Guj, Gandira, Corporation come the independent Mali UNH, and Reservant Tanzingetsu, Shape City Bardo Dang Guj, Hong Tumbengo Malopa, then the Douglas of the Soul, Codente Pelochanam Gopatso, Chik Shukden, so. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for joining these sessions on the 6 perfections. Good night.